Are You Really Going to Eat That? Podcast episode 110. I'm your host, Wendy Hill, and I'm a nutritional therapist with a passion for great tasting quality food. Each week, I bring you sensible advice about nutrition and your health, along with interviews with amazing food suppliers and passionate foodies. So are you surprised to hear me on a Monday? So this is a bonus episode. Why am I recording a bonus episode? Well, hopefully you know what today is. And if you don't, then today is World Menopause Day. And as I am a female hormone expert, I thought it was most appropriate that I should record an episode talking about World Menopause Day. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about menopause, perimenopause, and actually why we all need to understand it a little better. So if you're a man and you are listening to this, do not turn off, because I can guarantee that you have some women in your life. And as women are 50% of the population, and every single woman, if they reach that age, will be going through menopause at some point. So your mum, your sister, your partner, your friends, they will all go through it at some point in their life. And so it's really important that we all understand a little bit more about it. So in this little mini bonus episode, I'm going to talk to you a bit about menopause. So I think first thing we need to understand is, what is menopause? Now, menopause is kind of like the umbrella term that we use. Now, according to the NHS, menopause is when a woman stops having periods and is no longer able to get pregnant. As a very simple kind of way of describing it, isn't it? No more periods, no more pregnancy. Well, fair enough. That is, that is a term, but it is an umbrella term that we use, and it encompasses perimenopause, menopause and post-menopause. We can often be in perimenopause much, much earlier than we think. And the key is that our progesterone levels start to drop and our estrogen levels start to go a little bit wayward. And it can happen it can happen in our 30s, but often it starts to happen. The signs start to happen in our early 40s. And I think that you're talking about it more and understanding about it more, and World Menopause Day is a great day to do that. It's really important, because if you haven't had, you immediately think that if you've had no differences in your cycle, then you can't possibly be in perimenopause. And actually, that just isn't true. Postmenopause is when our periods fully stopped, and it's often when most of the menopausal symptoms will stop as well. So we have all these symptoms going on from sort of like when we start in perimenopause, and then postmenopause is kind of the calm after the storm. And I've heard it sort of classed, perimenopause classed as, or menopause classed as, kind of like our second puberty. And I think it's a really kind of good way of describing it, because it is when all these kind of levels are all over the place. And if you think back to puberty when you were kind of, men as well, think back to it when you were going through puberty and your testosterone levels were up and down and your voice was breaking, and you didn't know when it was going to happen. And I would say have some sympathy, because it's a little bit like that for women if they're having hot flushes and things, is you just don't know when it's going to happen. And it is that sort of second puberty. So remember how awkward you felt and how unsure you were, and maybe channel some of that and, into the kind of understanding for women who are going through menopause. Now, there are many, many symptoms of menopause. There are actually 34 recognized symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And this is why it's really hard to know if you're in those early stages, because you may experience some of them or you may experience none of them. So I'm not going to list all 34, but I'm going to go through some of the key ones that I think that you should be thinking about, because and being more aware of. So I think the top one is anxiety. And lots of clients, and myself included, when I was in the early throes of perimenopause, anxiety was probably one of the biggest drivers that I didn't realize until kind of later, that I was anxious, that I was going through, I was having anxiety. And so a lot of people may go to the doctors and kind of have some of these symptoms that I'm going to talk about now, and, anxiety, and sort of mood disorders, mood dysregulation, go to the doctor to sort of say, I just don't feel like myself. And I think that was the thing when I was in my early 40s. I was definitely having perimenopausal symptoms. I didn't know what they were. Now I do, and I'm nearly 50 now. So, it's kind of expected. But then I didn't really know what it was. And I just didn't feel like myself. And I think many people go to the doctor and say, I don't feel like myself. I don't really know what's going on. And the doctor sort of says, are your periods regular? And they say yes, and they kind of get antidepressants. People will come to me saying, I've been prescribed antidepressants. I don't want to take them, but I don't really know what's going on. Do you know? Can you help? My answer is yes, I can help, and I do know. So anxiety is one of them. Difficulty sleeping is another key one. And if you can't sleep very well, then your body isn't repairing. And of course, you're going to be more anxious, and your mood is going to change the following day. Of course it is. So poor quality sleep. Again, that was I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I was actually having night sweats and hot flushes, which is another one of the symptoms. But I didn't know I was having hot flushes. Like now I get hot flushes, and they're kind of proper hot flushes, and I know what they are. And I feel that when I was in the early stages, I had quite bad disturbed sleep, and once I was awake, I couldn't get back to sleep again. It's one of my problems. If I wake up in the night, my mind starts to race, and I can't always get back to sleep. But I wasn't necessarily I was hot, but I thought I was having nightmares. I'll be honest, what I thought was I was having nightmares that I just couldn't remember, because I was waking up with the jolt, and I was my heart was racing, and I was hot, and I was kind of breathless. And I was thinking, well, I must have had a bad dream. I must have had a nightmare. Couldn't remember what the nightmare was. Hadn't talked to anyone about it. My girlfriends weren't talking to me about, their symptoms and stuff. Now I realize it was the very early stages of perimenopause. So if you are having that disrupted sleep and that difficulty sleep, is that part of the early stages? Reduced sex drive is one of the key factors. Now, many women in the early stages of the menopause, and I'm going to use early 40s as a sign. It could be, could be late 30s, could be late 40s, but let's just say, early 40s for a general term. You probably got young kids, and if you've got young kids and a career and trying to look after the house and do all the rest of it, you probably have got a reduced sex drive, and you don't put it down again to the perimenopause. You just kind of think, you're anxious, you're not sleeping, you're getting some hot flushes, or you're waking up in the middle of the night, you've got a reduced sex drive. This is all to do with the fact that you just flipping knackered from kids and work and goodness knows what else. But actually, it is probably part of this hormone dysregulations, probably with problems with memory and concentration, headaches and migraines. These are all things. Joint stiffness. Joint stiffness is a key one. And kind of being diagnosed with things like fibromyalgia in your early 40s is much more common for women. And the question is it fibromyalgia, or is it a sign of the perimenopause? Is it one of the early signs? So that's another thing to think about. Are you aching? Are you tired? That was something that I definitely had. I was like, God, I'm getting old. I get up and I'm aching and stuff. And World Menopause Day, by the way, is 18th of October. In case you're not listening to the podcast episode live, it is World Menopause Day on the 18th of October. But this year's theme is bone health. And it's something that I am very aware of and very interested in. The worry with osteoporosis is that generally the first sign of osteoporosis is when we have a broken bone. And then it's possibly a bit too late. You want to be thinking about it now, whenever now is. It doesn't really matter whenever now is. At about 25, we reach optimum bone health, optimum bone mass. So anytime before 25, you want to be encouraging your body to be creating more thicker bones. And then after 25, you want to be protecting those bones as hard as you can. So it matters no matter what age you are about supporting your bones. So one of the best ways to do it is to ensure that you've got really good gut function. Of course, if your gut isn't working properly, then you aren't going to absorb those vitamins and minerals. Yes, it all starts in the gut. And the second thing is by making sure you get enough calcium in your diet. So seeds are a really good source of calcium, particularly chia seeds. I love chia seeds, little powerhouses they are. Just a teaspoonful every day. Put them on your salads, put them on your porridge, put them in your smoothie. absolutely powerhouses. Chia seeds, really great sources of calcium. Cheese and yogurt, so dairy is a good source of calcium, but it's not always very well absorbed by everybody. Lots of people have lactose intolerances and things, so we do need to be really mindful of that. So we don't just think if you don't have a glass of milk, you can't get calcium. Chia seeds, perfect. So if you're going to have cheese and yogurt, I would say think about the type that you're having. So with cheese, go for a good quality cheese. Parmesan cheese is actually really high in calcium, so go for something like a Parmesan cheese. And you can often find that people who can't necessarily tolerate milk can sometimes do a little bit of hard cheese. And then with yogurt, I would always choose kefir yogurt for those additional gut-loving benefits. So go for a nice Greek yogurt or a kefir yogurt, but only if you can tolerate lactose, and be really careful of it because lots of people can't. So don't think you have to have it to get calcium. There are lots of other ways of getting calcium. Sardines are another way. That's because we eat the bones. So in those little tiny bones, we get some calcium from those. Now, I would be amiss to not tell you about my wonderful group called Fabulous and Female. So if you've been listening to this podcast and you think, yes, thank you, Wendy, I'm getting all that, but actually maybe you're a little bit overwhelmed, or maybe you feel like you need a bit more support, or maybe you want a bit more advice. So I think for me, the really important thing to understand about menopause is it's a time when change is happening, and you do need to reevaluate what your bodies need, and it's going to be different to what you needed in your 20s and 30s. And it can be a real time of confusion, and you can feel like your body is out of control, that you just don't know what's happening, and you need that extra level of support. And that's where my group comes in. So if you are interested in getting a little bit of support, it's a really low cost membership, and it's just brilliant. I give lots and lots of advice. So you get the advice of a hormone expert, which is me, by the way. And the group is called Fabulous and Female. Go to www.fabfemale.co.uk. And there I'll tell you all about it. But supported by a closed Facebook group. I'm in there all the time. So there's lots of recipes, because it's really important to get really good quality, nourishing food. I do lots of cooking demos, but I talk to you particularly about hormone health and female health, and everything is from that point of view, giving you the tools that you need, helping you understand what's going on in your body right now. I do lots of reviews, so book reviews, product reviews. We get guest experts in that will talk to us about, those products that we're worried about, those questions that we have. There's live Q&A, loads of live Q&A sessions, so you can literally come on and ask me personally your own question. So some of it's more general and some of it's more new, and it's really there for that support, because I just think it can be a scary time. And if, like me, you were on your own and you didn't even know what was going on, and if I'd have heard someone in my ears in a podcast talking to me like I'm talking to you guys now, I would have been, I need that, because I don't know what's happening. And you don't all have to go off and do a naturopathic nutrition course to know what's going on. You can just join the group, and I'll give you those tips and give you that support that you need. So I'm there if you need me. That's fabfemale.co.uk. I do hope you come along and join me, because it is just a wonderful place to hang out, and it has all that support that you need. The key thing is to understand that, we are in a time of change. Menopause is a time of change. It doesn't have to be, and it isn't a negative, and it isn't a condition. It is a time of life. So there we go. That's it from me for this week. So a bonus episode in support of World Menopause Day on the 18th of October 2021. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, do just ask me. I'm on social media at He'll Start Nutrition on Instagram or Facebook. Just come in, direct message me, ask me about it. If you're interested in the membership, that's fabfemale.co.uk. If you've got a question about it, do ask me. The more we talk about it, the better it is. And that's it for me for this week. And as always, even though it's World Menopause Day, we still have to eat. So I do want to know, what have you got for tea?